Donk Nation, Jax and Jen, it's greetings and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you some nonsensical Steelers talk in the off season. Again, I'm out here by myself with my thoughts, just trying to figure out what should we do this week, and I came up with, you know what? We're going to talk about draft picks, and we're going to talk about draft picks that were just disappointments from the perspective of, man, I really, really wanted them to be something. So these are my five most disappointing draft picks. And by that, I don't mean picks that I didn't like because we skipped on someone. I mean draft picks that disappointed because I had high hopes of them and they just never panned out. And ironically, you're not going to see any first round picks in my list because apparently I don't have high hopes for first rounders, or a lot of them lived up to the expectation that I had for them. If my voice is kind of raspy, I'm sorry. It seems to be going crazy on me today. But since there's no Steelers news really going on, let's go ahead and let's just get to the list with the honorable mentions. For me, the honorable mentions of draft picks that just disappointed include guys like Alameda Taiamu, a big defensive tackle out of Washington, who I had thought was going to be the new plug and play stopper after Casey Hampton. You have Chris Rainey, running back who got in his own way, but had a lot of skills and speed coming out of Florida. You got Curtis Brown, all the athletic ability in the world, was jumping over people in training camp, and injuries just always seem to get in the way of the cornerback from Texas. You have Dallas Baker, the touchdown maker from Florida, wide receiver, just big target, and thought he was going to be the red zone savior. And then a guy who I always loved was T. Martin, quarterback out of Tennessee, follows up Manning. Manning sets all the records. T. Martin wins the championship. That's what I remember. I had hopes for him coming in that it was going to be something big, something special, and just never turned out that way. So now let's get to the actual list here. At number 5 in the 2015 draft, the 7th round with pick 239, the Steelers take Gerard Holloman, safety, Louisville. A guy who just had a knack for intercepting the football, led the nation in interceptions that year. Thought for sure he was going to make the team as a guy who was just going to be a ball hawk in the background, but turns out he was softer than soft, afraid to tackle, and not as good in coverage in the pros as he was in college, and just never even made the team, not a chance at anything, and just a guy who I thought had Pro Bowl potential that just turned into a bunch of nothing. We get to my number 4 on the list, and if you're curious, this is as far back as I can remember. It's probably the 2000 draft, so any draft pick prior to 2000 definitely didn't disappoint because I really don't remember them being picked, if I'm going to be honest. But in the year 2000, in the 3rd round, with pick number 77, out of the University of Pittsburgh, we take a defensive back by the name of Hank Poteet. Good kick punt returner, great cornerback in college. Played okay in the pros. I mean, he was a serviceable defensive back, but I always thought he was going to be a superstar, pick guy, defensive back, going to be at least a great kick returner. And that just, Hank Petit was a good and maybe average. He was a serviceable NFL player for a 3rd round pick. That's good, but just a real disappointment in me because he was the first pick I can remember as a guy I thought was going to be a straight up superstar that wasn't like a 1st round or 2nd round pick. Then we get to number 3, the 2014 draft. In the 3rd round with pick number 97, a running back out of Kent State by the name of Dree Archer falls to the Steelers. And you want to talk about a guy with speed you can live and absolutely love. Fastest guy in the draft, a 4.2 something speed. Just too small. Bumbled, didn't really get. And for all that speed, it seemed like pads slowed him down a lot because when he put on pads, elusiveness just disappeared and he couldn't get anything done. Have to say, Dree Archer, very, very disappointed by the outcome there. Just can't believe it didn't work out. But then again, when you look back at it with real perspective and not rose-colored glasses, it probably was the only result. So that brings us to my second most disappointing pick, 2015, second round, pick number 56, Sinquez Golson, cornerback out of Mississippi. Dude was a shutdown corner. Dude was a little undersized. That's why he fell to the second round. It's going to work out for the perfect for the Steelers. And then just injuries come about. We find out one leg's a little shorter than the other. He's injured all the time. He gets traded to Philly for nothing. Doesn't do anything in Philly. Just a guy who I don't think ever saw the field purely due to injury. So who knows what he could have been if he stayed healthy. But for me, a disappointing pick because I thought the Steelers had finally hit it after all these misses with guys like Curtis Brown and so on and so forth. They finally found the right piece, and it wasn't meant to be. It never turned out to be. And well, I guess that means we can move on to my most disappointing pick in Steelers history, and it's because I was a Pitt and Texas fan growing up for some odd reason. And I remember watching a lot of Texas games with guys like Vince Young and all those talented teams. And the Steelers finally went in and got one of those superstars from that Mac Brown era Texas generational run that they had. In 2008, the second round, pick number 53, wide receiver, Texas, Limas Swede comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Watched all his elusiveness. Watch Colt McCoy get him the football. Just a guy who was going to come here and give Ben that target that Antonio Brown ended up becoming a few years later. But just a guy who couldn't get out of his own way. The speed was there. The elusiveness was there. Just he forgot how to catch the football. He had social disorders that made him really nervous in the groups and that thing and really hindered his performance, in my opinion, and just never lived up to the potential he had. Went to the CFL, had the same problems. Just, I don't know how to say it. Just a disappointing take for a guy I thought was bound to be a Hall of Fame generational talent coming to the Steelers in the situation he was going to end up. I guess more so my thought wouldn't have been Antonio Brown, but Mike Wallace, what he had done with the Steelers, which if Mike Wallace stayed with the Steelers and kept that up for 10 years, you're talking a generational type of talent guy. But Limas Swede never to work out, but I will always remember him dropping that one pass and 2 plays later just earholing someone on a great block. So at least I got one great memory out of my most disappointing draft pick from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's my list. Let me know what you think about it. If you have a different list and you have players you know deserve to be number 1, number 2, let me know who are the guys you were looking forward to, what you thought their potential was, why they look so great, and how come it just didn't work for the Steelers and that player. Because I think it's kind of fun to look back and remember the guys that you thought were going to be something that didn't turn out. And I mean, a lot of people can live and love on first-round picks, but I think these 2nd through 7th rounders, you find a guy and you're like, man, I love that kid. I love that he fell there. I love the thing. And it just feels like you get a steal. And man, do some of them just let you down. So I guess we'll go ahead and say now it's time for me to give a shout out. My shout out this week is going to be to the team that plays just a little bit away from the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that, of course, is going to be their all-stars since it's about to be all-star game. David Bednar, Mitch Keller, both well-deserving pitchers, and good luck up there in Seattle in the all-star game. I hope the NL wins it so you guys can win it, and I hope the Pirates have a great second half of the year. Now it's time to let you know. I'm the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger is a YouTube channel where you find all this fun content. Hopefully we'll get Laskers and Gingy in here at some point for some more off-season talk. But until then, leave us a like, comment, follow. Tell us what you want to see, what you don't want to see, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear, I guess is more appropriate. But Donk Nation, Jackson Jennings, Steeler Nation, love y'all. It's time to wave them if you got them. Here we go.